I know I've driven the Ford Fiesta ST-Line before, and yes, I also know that you're probably more interested in the Fiesta ST, but I think the Fiesta ST-Line, even though it isn't the fastest, even though it isn't the most powerful Fiesta, could be a real sweet spot. Now, of course, I couldn't be on YouTube if I didn't ask you to subscribe. Not in a desperate, beggy kind of way, but just in a gentle, if you're passing by a subscribe button and you happen to click it, I'd be very grateful. I'm kidding, please subscribe to me. And if you feel like it, give it a like, perhaps, or a cheeky comment. This is the Ford Fiesta ST-Line. And you may remember that I drove it back at the end of 2017 on some very beautiful, albeit very dark, roads in Wales. I can't believe that was actually that long ago. What does ST-Line mean? Well, ST-Line essentially is a trim level. Where Ford reserves the ST name for cars that actually have hot hatchback performance, the Focus ST, the Fiesta ST, ST-Line is a brand that Ford can apply to a broader range of vehicles. You can even get an Edge ST-Line. What you tend to get is a sportier look inside and out and sportier suspension. In a car like an Edge, I'm sure you can appreciate the slightly sportier look to an Edge ST-Line, but are you that bothered by sportier suspension in an Edge? Probably not, but in a Fiesta, that seems like more of an opportunity. The standard Fiesta already drives really, really well, so to add a slightly more focused feel to a Fiesta without going all the way to a full-on hot hatch is actually quite appealing. The car I drove in Wales was a 1.5 litre turbo diesel. It had 120 brake horsepower, 199 pounds-feet of torque, and 0 to 62 miles an hour took 9 seconds exactly. Now, I know diesel gets a bit of a bashing nowadays, but that diesel engine is a really, really good little engine. It delivers its power really well. It's a lot of performance actually for a small diesel, and yet if you were trying to just cruise along, go for miles to the gallon, you can get 70 to 80 mpg. 70 to 80 mpg in a small car like that. That's really impressive. This ST-Line is a little different, and arguably much more the middle ground between the standard Fiesta and the Fiesta ST. As a 1 litre turbocharged 3-cylinder petrol engine with 140 brake horsepower at 6,000 RPM and 133 pounds-feet of torque from 1500 RPM all the way to 5,000 RPM. 0 to 62 miles an hour takes 9 seconds exactly, again the same as the diesel, and the top speed is 125 miles an hour. Considering this is a 1 litre, it's got plenty of poke. From 2,000 RPM all the way, particularly once you hit 3,000, and then build 4,000, 5,000, it just pulls really well. And also, I think it makes quite a good noise. I rather like this engine. No wonder this engine has won so many awards. It's just good fun. It delivers its power and its torque really smoothly, and it's a 1 litre with 140 brake horsepower. That's impressive. It's really impressive. The suspension, well, you've got McPherson struts up front and you've got a twist beam set up at the back. Fundamentally, it's the same suspension you get on every Fiesta, right from the entry-level Fiesta all the way up to the Fiesta ST, but obviously on the Fiesta ST, well, they've spent more money on it. In the Fiesta ST-Line, what they've done is stiffened the springs, so it does ride a little bit firmer than a standard Fiesta, but it's a little bit more controlled. It just behaves slightly better and it's more responsive as well. When you ask the car to do something, it feels like it does it with a little bit more precision and a little bit more pace. The steering has electronic power assistance, as do most steering systems nowadays, but it just feels right. So many people drive Fiestas, and I think a lot of people probably forget that they're driving one of the best handling, best feeling hatchbacks you can buy. One thing you do notice almost immediately is it feels small, it feels nimble, it feels quite lightweight. This petrol weighs 1,144 kilos, the diesel 1,188 kilos. Still very light cars, and you can feel that behind the wheel. You can just chuck it out of the corner and it just takes it. It's not at all intimidating, and I suppose that's what a Fiesta should be. Good fun, but not in any way scary. The brakes are 262mm discs up front and 252mm discs at the back. If you start to push this car a little bit harder, you'll notice a couple of things. When you brake really, really hard, obviously this has got softer suspension than something like a Fiesta ST, so you've got a bit more movement at the back. You can feel it wiggle its hips a little bit more. And also, the brakes don't stand up to the same kind of punishment. I started to drive a little bit quicker in this car earlier on, and the brakes started to smell after a couple of minutes. But to be honest, neither of those things really matter an awful lot. The brakes are enough for this car 99% of the time. You just can't go as hard as a Fiesta ST. Again, that's to be expected because that's why you pay less money and get a less serious car. The gearbox is a 6-speed manual, and classic Ford really, it's a really, really good gearbox. I said at the time when I first drove this that the gearbox in this could put gearboxes in other hatchbacks to shame. It really, really can. The interior, well, there are a lot of things to like, not many to dislike. Things not to like, that. I just don't really like that plastic quality, but that's a very motoring journalist thing to say really, isn't it? Things to like, the fact that this cabin is a much simpler place than the cabin of the old Fiesta. It's just simpler. There are fewer buttons dotted all over the place. It's a nicer place to be. It feels like it's finished to a higher standard. Other things to like, the driving position, the adjustability you've got in the steering wheel, in the seat, the fact that the pedals are really well positioned. So if you want to heel and toe and things like that, you can do that. And I know people who are buying Fiesta ST-Lines probably won't heel and toe an awful lot, but if you do, they're in a good position. As for the design, well, you get things like a little roof spoiler, you get different bumpers, different side skirts, different wheels. I would buy a Fiesta ST-Line for the looks alone over a standard Fiesta. I just prefer it. The price? Well, you can get an ST-Line in 2 flavours. You can get the ST-Line or the ST-Line X. And the ST-Line X basically has more kit. You get cruise control, you get navigation rather than just a screen. You get tinted windows, different wheels, you get half leather seats, you get illuminated cup holders. The ST-Line is £17,415. The ST-Line X is £19,165. Now, of course, I'm not oblivious to the fact that if you buy an ST-Line X like this, then you're about £300 away from a basic Fiesta ST. I'm fully aware of that, but don't misunderstand what I'm saying as don't buy a Fiesta ST, buy an ST-Line. If you want a hot hatchback, go and buy a Fiesta ST. It's really, really good. However, if you don't want a full-on hot hatchback experience, but you want a car that drives a little bit better than a normal Fiesta, the ST-Line is a really happy medium. It is a really good sweet spot. What do you think of the Fiesta ST-Line? Would you buy one? Or would you just get a normal Fiesta? Or would you go for the full-on Ford Fiesta ST hot hatchback angry experience? Let me know in the comments below.